Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. Today I will be looking at and hopefully have some fun with another fountain pen from Jinhao that raised a few waves when it was released. Some waves were because it copies another classic Montblanc fountain pen and some other waves were because of the nib size that they introduced at an extremely affordable price point. In case you didn't figure it out yet, the fountain pen in question is the Jinhao X159. Since this video is scheduled to be released on exactly April 1st, I thought that as a joke I should call it Montblanc X159 throughout. But then I realized that a lot of people might not get the joke and might not appreciate my dry humor. So I decided against it. With that said, let me dive deeper into this Montblanc X159 and see what's what. When I got the fountain pen, I was quite excited about it and I automatically got the original copy as it's called, and then they released a few other colors which they were called version 2, and I ended up with a few copies. These are all the colors that I like, and these for me right now, they suffice. I don't need any more than that. And the ones that I'll be focusing on today is the original version and the upgraded version. The only true differences between these fountain pens is that the newer version, the cap on it opens up half a turn quicker than the older one. Other than that, they're pretty much exactly the same. So if you don't care that much about how long it takes to open the cap on the pen, older version versus newer versions, they're pretty much exactly the same. One trick that I figure out with these pens is that if you want to open up really quick, all you have to do is to untwist it a little bit, spin it, remove it. It's that simple. Going quickly through the fountain pen, classic cigar shape pen, pretty girthy. Please have a look in the description to see the dimensions and weight. If you have smaller hands, this pen might be on the big side. Again, like mentioned, cigar shaped, finials at both ends. I tried to untwist them, unfortunately they do not open up, most probably they're glued in place. The clip, it's actually fairly usable, quite springy, and I think it can accommodate a lot of pockets as far as I can tell. You do have a cap band that says Jinhao, and on the other side it says X159. Barrel tapers down a little bit all the way to the ring before the finial, and then tapers even more towards the dome end. Injection molding gate at the end of the finial, and on the finial for the cap, it's perfectly nice, rounded and nicely domed. No injection port as far as I can tell. Speaking though of injection marks, the body, it's actually really nicely finished. I don't really see any traces of injection molding. I mean, if you really look, you can actually see some lines. I don't know if the camera can pick it up. It's somewhere in here. But at the touch, I do not feel it. Doing a quick shirt test. Clip, it's a little bit stiff, but glides over the cloth very nicely, and it seems to grab on it quite nicely and well. No issues there. I actually like it. This is what you see out of your pocket, and everything is nice and smooth. The clip is stamped, but again, no issues with it. The cap is a twist cap, and again, it takes about 2.5 on the older version and about 2 turns on the newer version. to me it doesn't really matter. And having a quick look inside the cap, everything is fairly smooth, no things out of place or to mention. Threads seems to be well built, and you have plastic threads on plastic threads. And going back to the fountain pen, you have a fairly short section that flares out just before the nib. A really nice nib. A lot of people call this a number 8 nib, but the truth is the feed it's actually more on the 7.5 millimeter side, so it's not a true 8 millimeter nib, and that's why you might not be able to fit other 8 millimeter nibs in here. And section, again, going back to it, even though it's short, it meets with the barrel very, very nice, and makes it for pretty good experience, I would say. The way I hold the pen, my thumb pretty much sits on those threads, helping me with gripping the fountain pen. On the threads for the barrel, you will be able to see a little bit of that seam between the two parts that were met. Usually that's visible because it's very hard to polish that side of the pen. And the barrel opens up a little bit stiff at the beginning, and that's because it has an O-ring, and it seems to open up fairly nicely after it passes the ring. A little bit of silicone grease on that O-ring will help prolong the life for the O-ring and make things go a little bit smoother. As far as I can tell, this collar that supports the converter seems to be made out of plastic, so that's a good thing. I don't think that's aluminum or any other kind of metal. It's more like plastic that was chromed, I guess. And that's a good thing because that means you have plastic threads on plastic threads, and in time those threads inside won't get chewed up. And going back to the barrel, as you can see inside, everything seems to be, again, pretty smooth. Not a lot of complaints, seems to be fairly well built. You do get a converter with this fountain pen, which is really nice. It's a Lamy Safari styled converter that works very well, very smooth, no issues there. And you do have a metal collar at the end of the converter to help prolong the life of that plastic, I guess. And I guess I should demonstrate this as well. The nib unit is removable. It does come with an O-ring here, and it is a little bit stiff, and again I would recommend to add some silicone on the threads and on the O-ring to help prolong the life of those threads and that O-ring. Not needed, but it definitely helps, especially when you want to remove it for cleaning. After a while that might get stuck in there. And again, as the visual differences goes, the newer version of the pen has dual tone nibs, which they're definitely more better looking than the older one. However, they're exactly the same nib, nothing really different about them. And this is a little bit misaligned because I removed it. And yeah, like I mentioned, the threads on the newer one seems to open up faster than the older one. And the way they did this trick, as you can look inside the caps, the only reason that basically the threads are opening up faster is that they pushed the threads inside the cap a little bit more inside of the cap. So that also means that most probably you have less threads in touch with each other, because looking at the actual body of the pen, the thread size, it's exactly the same. So the only way they could have made it go quicker is by pushing the threads inside the cap a little bit deeper inside it. In hand, both pens feel exactly the same. I like the size, at least for my hand, seems to be perfect. Again, if you have smaller hands, most probably you won't like the girth of this pen. Lengthwise for me is just at the limit that I need. So that's actually a good thing. I really like it. And balance wise, another thing that I like about it is that the weight of it, it's nib heavy, unposted, which again, I do like that in a fountain pen because it naturally points down and it helps you with not fighting the pen to keep it nib down. And all pens, as far as I know, do post. I've seen some people complaining about not posting. I don't know what's that. I never had any issues with either one of them. All of them are posting very well. And the balance, once posted, it actually shifts in the middle of the pen, lengthwise posted. And again, it's actually a very nice weight. I think I like, and I can definitely use both without an issue. For drawing, most probably I will definitely always use it posted, but for writing, I could see myself using it unposted as well. I think it will be a matter of the mood that I am in. Both ways, the pen works very nicely. Things to note, and I've seen a lot of people have issues, some people, not a lot of people, have issues with this. This might come off as far as I've seen. If that happens, you can easily glue it down back with a little bit of shellac if you have that issues. So far, I did not have that issue with any of my fountain pens. However, to be on the honest side, I didn't really use them as much as other people have so far. And this is pretty much the fountain pen. I really like the way they are built, especially at the price point that they go for. As far as I've seen them, they go anywhere between 8 to 12 Canadian dollars. I've seen them on Amazon Canada for more than that, like double than that. Unless you're desperate to have it the next day, I would say buy it from another place because the price is way too high on Amazon as far as I've seen. And these are the fountain pens. Not much else to add. So let me dive into a writing sample and then I'll try and do a sketch with both of these fountain pens. Hopefully I'll get something good. If not, at least I am going to have some fun with them, no matter the end result. And doing a quick writing sample. In the black one I have platinum carbon ink, and in the red one I have the Yamabudo Hiroshizuku. So this is Jinhao X159 fountain pen. Nib, it's fairly wet, very smooth, I like it. And reverse, forgot to tighten it all the way down. Reverse, it's a little bit dry, or at least feels dry and a little bit scratchy, but usable, especially if you slow down. Could definitely benefit from some smoothing. Not sure if I'm gonna do it. I'll let you know during the drawing and my final conclusions if I did anything to it. Nibs, both nibs are actually pretty good. The ink, or the Yamabudo ink in this red pen feels a little bit drier. I don't know if it's because of the nib or because of the ink. Apparently you do get very little line variation. The nib on the red one is just as dry on reverse as the other one, but if you slow down, it seems to work very nicely. The flow is pretty good. However, it's not as scratchy as the other one. Anyway, so far so good. Let me dive into a sketch, and I'll let you know what I think of these fountain pens. Today's drawing ended up being completely random. I had no idea what I was doing when I started, and had no idea what I am going to end up with. I still have no idea what I end up with, or even what to call it. I guess it was one of those days. The fountain pens worked perfect, absolutely no complaints about them. The nibs were as smooth as they could have been, and they never stood between me and whatever I was trying to accomplish. I soldier on until I sort of got something out of it, and then called it a day. Still have plenty of ink left in the pens for a couple of more days. I think I will leave them untouched for a week or so, then test to see if the caps on these pens seals better than the caps on the Jinhao 80. If you don't see any pinned comments, then I guess they worked as they should have. What do I like about the Jinhao X159 fountain pen? The first obvious thing that attracted me about this fountain pen was the nib that it comes with. Hard to hate it, especially since it sells for such a low cost. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike that. I applaud it, and I'm happy finally a company realized that you don't have to charge so much for a nib this size. It's still just a piece of metal, and charging 4 times over the price of a number 6 size nib, it's quite absurd, I would say. So, an honest thank you to Jinhao for making this fountain pen and nib unit. Now, the only thing they need to do is start selling these nib units separate. I need them, please. And as the nib was not enough, at this price point you could also get a nice body and cap that works very well and complements the nib just as good. And you also get a converter included. What I don't like about it, from my point of view, it's very hard to dislike anything about the fountain pen. What I would see as maybe a little bit annoying for others, if you have smaller hands, this fountain pen might feel a little bit too girthy. Even for me, it's a little at the edge of being a little large. Still comfortable, but anything larger than this, and I would have not enjoyed it as much as I do now. The other negative thing about the pen that I have not experienced yet is the fact that some people had issues with the pen falling apart. Based on what I gather, it seems that some of them, they just didn't use enough glue when they put the parts together. If you have this issue, it's very easy to fix. I do recommend getting some shellac. It can be very handy and useful, especially if you like to adventure in this fountain pen world. It's a perfect glue that it's safe to use on a lot of parts of the fountain pen, and for this Jinhao X159 will work just as great. And the last thing that I have noticed that people complain about, and I feel the need to make a point on it. The complaint is that they did not make this as a piston fountain pen. I honestly do not see the point of being a piston, and how it would have made this fountain pen any better than it is already. First of all, as a reminder, as far as I know, Jinhao doesn't even make a piston converter. Don't get me wrong, I like piston fountain pens as well, and I have nothing against them. But ultimately, I believe that a cartridge converter fountain pen is still a little bit superior to a piston converter. Simpler parts, simpler to maintain, and less costly to replace. A broken piston converter mechanism will 99% of the time render the fountain pen completely useless and unusable. So no, I am not in the camp that complains that this is not a piston fountain pen. And to end all this, overall, I love these fountain pens and I definitely stand behind them. Yes, they do come with a little bit of a caution warning regarding how it was assembled, but that can easily be fixed with some shellac. However, if you're not into fixing things, and I respect that, no worries, keep that in mind before ordering your fountain pen or not. And I think that's a wrap for today. Please feel free to share your experience below. I would love to read what others think of this fountain pen as well. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today and I wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Take care. Bye.